Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nakhead's Bookish Cafe. Today we are gonna see if I was correct about my 5-star predictions. Alright guys, I'm gonna be honest, this is a last minute video that is replacing what should have been a vlog that I ended up canceling, but I've been wanting to film a wrap up for this 5-star prediction video for a while because I would like to move on to some other things, and this 5-star prediction video has been kind of looming over my head since I posted it in May of 2024. Yes, you heard that right. It has been over a year since I posted a video where I predicted 5 books that I thought would be 5 stars. And in fact, you still haven't read them all because the reason that it has taken me so long to complete this challenge is because of this book, which I still have not read. So this is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This is a well-beloved contemporary romance. It is a well-beloved series at this point because a couple other books have come out, and she's looking a little bent out of shape because she has been laying limp in my book cart all alone with no support system for a few months now. If you are new to my channel, I have been struggling with contemporary romance recently, especially when it comes to straight couples. And so I still think that I have the potential to really love this book, but I don't want to pick it up when I am just not feeling what this book is putting down. So a few months ago, or a couple months ago, I tried reading Akwaeke Emeze's You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, and I ended up temporarily DNFing it. And that was kind of me testing the waters to see if maybe I could enjoy contemporary romance when it was a little bit more diverse, when it was a little bit more emotional, and it clearly didn't work out. So I have a feeling that if I were to pick up this book, no matter how great it is, I might just not love it as much as I should. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put this back on my shelves. One day I know that I will be able to read contemporary heterosexual romances again. Today is not that day, but I just want to get this video out because I like the idea of doing a vlog where I'm reading 5-star predictions, but I just feel bad doing that when I still have this video incomplete. I know I could do it, but my brain is like, no, no, no. So we're completing this and we're leaving this unread for when I can give this book the best chance at being a 5-star, because I think it could be. I think it could be, but right now it probably would not be. However, I did read 4 of those 5 books, so we're gonna go ahead and look at those and see if I was correct in my ratings of them. The first book on this list was Under and Santi Were Here by Johnny Garza Villa, and I'm happy to say that this book did end up being a 5-star. In fact, usually it hangs out behind this little mummy here on one of my all-time favorite shelves. I will say that this book kind of sat at a 4.5-star rating for a lot of the book until the very end of it really bumped it up to that 5-star rating. But despite that, this was just such a heartwarming story that I feel like is so important for people to read in this day and age that my love for it has only grown. So in this book, we are following 2 young characters. I believe that they're probably around 18, 19 years old. And one of our characters is Onder, and they are a young non-binary character, and their family owns a restaurant, and they have taken a gap year, and their family feels like they don't want them to waste this gap year working at the restaurant, and so they fire them so that they go off and do other new exciting things. And the person they hire on to replace Onder is Santi, and Santi is actually undocumented. They have a few undocumented people working at the restaurant, and this is a really big theme within the story where we are dealing with hardworking people who are constantly living in fear because of their status here in this country. Obviously, a relationship develops between Onder and Santi. It's pretty insta-lovey, I would say. I would say that the purpose of the story isn't exactly to watch them fall for each other. It's to watch them kind of navigate this relationship while Santi has this constant threat of being undocumented over his head, and Onder kind of starting to realize that despite the fact that they are non-binary and that they are Hispanic in appearance, and they are Hispanic, their legal status allows them a lot of privilege, and they've kind of started to overlook the danger that those within their neighborhood face on a day-to-day basis. So it's definitely about watching Onder really grow as a person throughout the story as their love for Santi grows as well. I think that this is a really great story if you are looking for a book, a young adult book, because that's what this is, that is discussing the topics of, you know, potential deportation, legal status, and the activities of ICE within these vulnerable neighborhoods. It is just such a beautiful and moving story, and I really do like the way that the author decided to end this story. So this did end up being a 5-star. I knew that this would be a 5-star because I really do enjoy following trans and non-binary characters. I really enjoy queer romances, and I also really enjoy especially young adult stories that focus heavily on contemporary themes that are really relevant to our world, and this was doing all of that. The next book is one I actually have unhauled since this video, though I have read it and had a decent time with that, and that is The Sweetest Remedy by Jane Igaro. And this is a contemporary romance, though I would almost say that it leans a little bit more literary fiction, a little bit more family drama, because that is a bigger part of the story. In this book, we are following a young woman who lives in America, and she gets notified that her father, who lived in Nigeria, has passed away, and she is invited to the funeral. Now, she goes there expecting to meet his family. She, I don't think, has ever met him, or maybe has not seen him since she was a very little tiny child, and she expects to kind of meet this family and be like, hey guys, it's me, his other child. But it turns out they didn't really know she existed, and it kind of brings about some uncomfortable topics about the fact that their father was kind of unfaithful to their mother, and they take a lot of that discomfort and anger out on her, and she's kind of like, you know, I didn't come here to be treated like this. Like, I have not seen him for years. I did not know the situation. This is not my fault. And on top of that, she meets a family friend of theirs who was very close to her father. They work together, and she actually ends up developing a relationship with him. Now, this book did not get 5 stars. However, I did give it 4 stars. It may seem a little surprising that I ended up unhauling it despite the fact that I gave it 4 stars. I think it was a relatively low 4-star rating, and I knew that I was never going to reread it again, and probably wasn't going to put it into too many recommendation videos, so I decided to go ahead and put it back out into the world. However, there were a lot of aspects of the story that I did enjoy, kind of dealing with that family drama and seeing our character kind of stand up for herself, and kind of watching that family come around was really interesting to see. The relationship did develop relatively quickly, but he was very supportive of her in this situation, despite the fact that he is very close to this family. That didn't mean that he just automatically sided with them. He kind of called them out on their unfair behavior. So this book had a lot of good stuff going on for it. However, it was still not the most interesting story for me. I mean, on the bright side, it was relatively short, but it also wasn't the most memorable or anything like that. So I definitely would suggest it, especially if you like stories that deal a lot with complicated family dynamics. A good time, but not a full 5 stars. The next book that I predicted was 5 stars might be familiar to you if you've been on my channel for a little while, and you'll know that I was spot on with this prediction, because that is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa, and this ended up being my top book of 2024. So not only was this a 5-star read, it was a all-time favorite read. Oh my gosh. This is a Japanese translated story, and we are actually following primarily from the point of view of this cat. His name is Nana, and after being hit by a car, this man ends up adopting him. He kind of brings him in, helps him heal and everything, and then says, if you would like to stay even after you've healed, you can. And so the two of them end up living together and becoming a little family. However, at the beginning of this book, they start traveling to visit old friends of this man and seeing if any of them can take Nana in to raise him moving forward. And I'm sure that there's a part of you that can predict why this needs to be done. This is such a heartbreaking story. Oh my gosh. This book had me sobbing for the last few pages. Like, I was reading these last few pages through blurry eyes and it was so heartwarming. And this book is 100% for people who love cats, and I love cats, and I love to see the bonds that some people have with their pets. And just hearing from Nana's perspective was so interesting, because it was very clear that he was a cat. This was definitely someone who understood cats. The author really understood cats and really put all that knowledge into Nana's character, where they were very proud and a little bit standoffish and a little reluctant to just show how much they loved and depended on their owner. But at the same time, they were very stubborn in their love and were like, no, I know exactly where I want to be, and it's by your side. No matter what that might be, I will be with you until the very end. And just seeing this cat, just the dedication and love that they had for their owner, just like literally was like, do my cats love me that much? Because I love them that much. And between that, we also get different perspectives of Nana's owner's friends. We're getting these flashbacks of when he was younger and when he was, you know, friends with these people. I mean, he's still friends, but they, you know, they live further away. But this was like when they were living closer together and their relationship was more close-knit. And that's kind of how we get to know a little bit more about this character and the kind of life he has led and how that made him the man that he is today. And it was just like a really interesting way to learn about this character, where, you know, we get a human perspective of him in the past, but we get this cat perspective of him in the present. It was just such an intriguing story, and I really found myself very interested in our character and wanting to learn more about him. But of course, it was primarily the emotions that this book evoked that really shot it to the top, and I just would recommend this book if you're okay with having your heart broken just a lot. And the final book on this list that I actually ended up reading is gonna be World Running Down by Al Hess. Now, this is another book that did not reach 5 stars. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Once again, now that I've had some distance from the book, I wonder if I was being a little bit generous. Sometimes when I look at this book, it's giving more 3.5 stars kind of. It's kind of hard because of course I've started to forget a little bit about the book, but sometimes, you know, your inability to really remember a book is also indicative of how good it is. But this is a sci-fi story, and we are following a trans character who is living out essentially in what's the wastelands, and they are a scavenger, and they end up getting the opportunity to make a lot of money by retrieving these essentially androids. And the reason they want to go into the big city is because if they go into the city, they will be able to gain access to medical procedures that will give them the body they feel the most comfortable in. And also right now they are, you know, having to do a lot of dangerous jobs just to afford the hormones that they need. And so living in the city would just be so much easier for them. And they end up working with this AI that has been placed into an android body. So usually this is just an AI that's moving along the cables all over the place, and right now it's like confined to this body, and it's kind of like, this is weird, I don't like this. And it's kind of interesting to be following two people who are uncomfortable in their bodies for two different reasons. We have this android that is like, well, this isn't like what my body, I didn't choose this body, I was just placed into it, and it's not what I'm used to, and it's not what I like. And then we of course have our trans character who's not 100% comfortable in their body either, because their body displays them as the wrong gender. And so that was an interesting part of the story for sure. I do also really enjoy post-apocalyptic stories. So watching them navigate this post-apocalyptic landscape, trying to find these androids, was a good time as well. However, throughout the story, our character kind of starts to learn more about these androids and kind of like how they're treated, and maybe starts to see that some of them have started to evolve to the point where they are a little bit more human. And so is it right for them to take these androids who have clearly made a run for it and drag them back to somewhere that they don't want to be? On the one hand, doing this would get them what they want, but also morally it just doesn't quite feel right. So it also has a lot of discussions about like what makes you human, AI rights, android rights. It was kind of a fun story, interesting commentary there. On top of that, there is a romance between our character and this android, or AI in an android character. So that was fun to read as well. Our character had this friend who I could not stand, and I get the part that she was playing in the story, but unfortunately her presence did decrease my enjoyment of the story a little bit. So even though this book had a lot of interesting elements to it and some things that I did enjoy, it just didn't quite meet my expectations for a 5-star read. All right, guys, those are all the books that over a year ago I predicted would be 5 stars. I think I did an okay job. I mean, I did have 2 5 stars out of the 4 that I actually read, and one of them was the best book of the year, so that was a pretty big win. The other 2, while I said they were 4 stars, you know, with some distance they lean a little bit more towards 3.5 stars, just because they haven't remained as memorable as some other higher rated books. I think the moral of the story is that I can predict what books I'm going to like. However, I don't think I'll ever get to the place where I can 100% guarantee 5-star reads. I honestly don't know if anyone has that ability. If you do, that's pretty much a superpower and I wish I had it. But I do think that I'm not going to do a 5-star prediction video again, just, or at least, you know, not anytime soon, because like you saw, it took me over a year to read these books, and one of them I didn't even end up reading because I feel like these last few years my reading has really kind of changed and evolved, and so I think that I have the interested in doing some 5-star prediction vlogs where I look there in the moment and pick like 3 books that I think are going to be 5 stars and then reading them. So I'll definitely see about doing that. But for now, we're going to leave 5-star predictions off the table just because this was my second time, I think, doing this video, and it's always taken me over a year to read the books. I don't know what it is about me. It's as soon as I say I need to prioritize certain books that I suddenly do the opposite of prioritize them. I like ignore them. So I would love to know what your last 5-star read was, and when you picked it up, did you think it was going to be a 5-star? As always, guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.